Ladies and gentlemen, please now join me in welcoming Gary Greenwald, Managing Director, Digital Money Services, Citi Enterprise Payments.
The best things in life are free, but you can give them to the birds and bees. I need fun. That's what I want. That's what I want.
Thank you very much, Anil, Jonathan, the whole Money 2020 gang, and to someone back there, I need my teleprompters up. Thank you. I read a tweet yesterday that Money 2020 has become kind of the Woodstock for payments geeks, and I didn't see a whole lot of tie-dyes or mudslides, but I kind of get the point. And I will say, for those of us living in this kind of tsunami of digital change, and you heard a bunch of that from Don, these really are pretty wild times. And while I'm really honored to talk to you all who's part of the mobile commerce ecosystem and digital payments ecosystem, I think you know that story. And I don't think you need an East Coast banker type in a suit to tell it again. And I definitely don't like preaching to the choir. So what I thought I would do today instead might be a little more interesting, which is to tell this digital story through my lens, right? Through the lens of the East Coast suit-wearing banker. It's someone who's worked for many years, proudly, to serve our clients and individual consumers in the 100 countries that Citi does business around the world. So here's my story. Like all good stories, has a preamble, 3 chapters, and a work-in-progress ending. Preamble, I call it, we're not in Kansas anymore, and it's about my introduction to mobile money about 5 years ago. Right, I was in our transaction services business at the time, and our Citi team in one of the Africa markets were talking about a new project they were doing with a mobile carrier. And as typically is done, they sent a bunch of PowerPoint slides to New York to explain this project. And you look at the slides, and there were really exciting screenshots of a mobile application. It was designed to bring unbanked consumers into the formal banking economy. You saw how it managed the loading of cash, stored value account, P2P payments. We all know that model. It was all really exciting. It was all really exciting. Of course, we asked our Africa team, so what's Citi doing in all this, right? We have a role to play, so does the mobile network operator. And the answer that came back was Citi would be managing the settlement account for this mobile banking scheme. Now, for those not familiar, a settlement account is kind of like a corporate checking account. I mean, actually is a corporate checking account, which means Citi, in this case, we were the trusted custodian of all these consumer-loaded funds put into one big pool of money. And in one sense, that was an awesomely terrific thing to do, right? Tried and true banking service to a corporate client. We were getting paid for it, not big money, not high up the mobile value chain, but we were in the mobile payments game. Or were we, right? And that was the bigger point of my preamble, because the aha moment for a number of us was it begged a profound question, right? What should it mean for a bank like Citi to be in this new emerging mobile and digital payment space, right? Instinctively, it seems there should be a little more to it than simply growing our business and settlement accounts, right? That's a good business. But mobile had all the markings of a new era, strange new partners like telephone companies, fascinating opportunities, and maybe some pretty scary risks all down this looming yellow brick road. So that's kind of my preamble. That was how I jumped into it. Let me fast forward about 5 years and talk about what we've done since. And how we've addressed this space at Citi. Chapter 1, I call this, Houston, we have a problem. And I don't mean this in the Apollo 13 nail-biting calamity sense. What I do mean is in the sense of a key approach we've taken to dive into mobile and digital. And it's tied very much to Citi's very large business with institutional B2B clients, you know, and it's called Find the Pain Points, right? Listen really hard to the kind of challenges that our corporate clients were facing, put on our digital problem-solving hats, and see if we could create an interesting opportunity that solves a problem. Let me give you what I think is a great example. We're about to launch, it's in pilot soon, something called Money Squared for Health. Now, the backstory to this is it's a product that's designed to provide a simple and clear way for consumers to review their doctor and hospital bills and make a payment. For those of you in the US, I think you know, understanding health insurance coverage, the bills, it ain't so pretty, right? We all get the pesky $12.76 invoice and the place postage here, mail-in envelope. It usually comes about 3 months after you've seen the doctor, right? That's the consumer pain here. The provider has a very different type of pain. It's called we don't get paid, right? The statistics I've seen are about 1/3 of patient responsibilities for these payments. They get written off, and we don't think it's because people don't want to pay or they can't find a stamp. It's because they don't understand what services they got, what was covered, who they owe, to whom they owe it. So Money Squared for Health, which we're going to pilot with our anchor partner, Aetna, right? I come back to working with institutional clients to solve a problem. We're going to roll it out in January. It's an internet and a mobile app, and its whole reason of being is to simplify, to enhance this flow of payments for both sides, pulling the bills together, the explanation of benefits, simple ways to pay, accelerating collections, payment, et cetera, et cetera. Everyone ends up with a simpler process. You know, we love these sort of challenges, and we love working with our institutional clients on them. Another example beyond healthcare. Corporate treasurers, many of whom are on the go, are often the last place where a big, multi-zeros before the decimal point wire transfer has to be approved. We found that a lot of them were calling their assistants to type in the password of our online banking system. We figured out a way to securely put that on a mobile device, and emphasis on secure, because these are big high-ticket items. And we now have mobile payments, not just for consumers, but for large corporate treasurers. Similarly, another example, we have clients that are trying to grow their e-commerce business in countries where there's not a whole lot of credit cards, right? So what we've done is combine traditional credit card acquiring with lots of local ways to pay so that these companies can engage in e-commerce in these developing markets. So chapter 1 point of my little story here is we love these digital world problems of our clients. We love solving them, bring them on. Many of us come to work every day to make our clients wildly successful, create value for them, and we think that creates value for us. Chapter 2 of my little story. I call this Wallets in Wonderland. And like many in this room, Citi's been engaged from the beginning and in a number of different ways in these ever-evolving things that we call mobile wallets, right? We were, for example, the founding banking partner with Google Wallet a few years ago. As I think everyone can appreciate, and we just heard from PayPal, this is a fast-moving landscape, and from my lens, it hasn't been an easy one to exactly figure out. Kind of ever-changing rules, topsy-turvy, Alice in the Wonderland looking glass experience. But I will make a few observations, because I think they're germane. The first one is, while we could talk about where on the timeline we are in reaching scale in mobile wallets, what I do hear with amazing global consistency is what consumers want when you talk to them about this, or at least what they think they want. And let me just show you some brief clips. We took them from Main Street, USA, or really from some dudes having lunch in Union Square in New York. But they know what? They're not a whole lot different from what we hear in Hong Kong and Brazil and Poland and anywhere else we ask these questions.
I pay for a lot of things on my phone, my cell phone bills. I shop a lot online.
I order from Seamless on my phone. A lot of times you can just swipe your phone and picture, it's a quick scan. It also automatically registers how many drinks that I've accrued towards my free drink.
It would be nice if it could replace my wallet. That's what I've used it to pay for everything. That would be a good feature.
Security is a big thing because, you know, today everything can be easily transmitted.
I don't want people knowing where I am at all times.
If I'm going to share my information, I want to get something back.
It's all about value. People are willing to give up a little bit of privacy, especially if things are targeted to you. You see the benefit.
For a merchant, the most viable concern is security from that client. Is that payment that we're receiving from that customer actually from that customer? Are we going to get charged back for free? That's my concern.
Easy. People don't like to wait, that's the point.
If it's faster than this or anything else, that's great. It's more business. It's faster. I can take care of more customers.
It's money, you know. It's at the end of the day, I still get the same amount of money, you know. It's all good.
Convenience, true added value, security, you've heard these before. My point is we're hearing them so consistent globally, which is very helpful as we think as a global bank of engaging in this wallet space. Second point is about that engagement. You know, I think the view we took at Citi was engage early to shape our destiny. None of this, you know, watch from the sidelines as things play out. So we're about to launch a mobile wallet in Asia. We're doing it with a local network operator. We've built a big global wallet platform. This will be our first deployment, and we've brought in a lot of the learnings from the pilots we've been part of, right? We've seen a lot. We've seen what's worked. We have some of our own ideas. We're making a leap into NFC. I'll come back to that in a second. And bringing in a whole bunch of other, what we think are pretty interesting features, and have put a primacy on security, right? We're a bank, and we got to play that to the utmost. And, you know, I feel really, really secure about what we're doing. We had to meet so many times with regulators, security consultants on the architecture, the privacy, the security protocols. So I think we got that one pretty nailed. Will this be successful, right? I think so. I hope so. Time will tell. But we're engaging, and we're going to learn. I mentioned NFC, so I do feel compelled for my point 3. I do want to make a comment on NFC for payments. You know, I heard yesterday, and I've read before, some people call this not for commerce, which I guess reflects that NFC scaled take-up hasn't happened to date. I don't quite share that view. That NFC absolutely could not be for commerce. It could be for commerce, right? And I think it has potential to be successful as one, maybe not the only, but one paradigm for digital in-store payments, right? When we talk to consumers, they love the ding when you tap a phone at a point of sale terminal. It feels good, it's cool, it seems secure, and in many markets, people are already used to, you know, tap and pay every day for things like transit. So my view of NFC ends up being a little different, and I've had to, you know, painfully sweat the alphabet soup of all the technology that's in today's NFC model, the secure elements and the trusted service managers and the phone hardware, operating system interactions. You know, I'm a banker. This is not my kind of stuff. But it takes too long. It was too hard, way too expensive. So my current view of NFC ends up being, I think it translates to needlessly complicated. Right, which I know covers just the first and the last letters. We'll leave the middle for imagination. But the more important one is I think the aces up our sleeve for the, you know, call it the salvation of NFC are a couple of initiatives underway around what's called tokenization, right? And tokenization ends up meaning you don't put the actual payment credential in the phone, you put something else that winds its way back to a payment credential. And you know, you'll hear some of this, I think, from Ed and some of the other speakers. These tokenization efforts, they're aimed at solving a broad range of challenges, but one implication of them, one implication of tokenization is we won't have to have live account numbers tucked into silicon chips on a phone. And from an NFC point of view, this simplifies, or has the potential for simplifying things magically by moving a lot of the security and the flow to the cloud. So the Secure Cloud Initiative that the Clearinghouse announced with a number of major issuers, one of these efforts. Last week we saw a proposal from MasterCard, Visa, and American Express in the same space. My view is these all are going to converge really quickly to a scalable solution, and if we can pull that off, then the difficulties that have caused NFC to be, needlessly complex, I think a lot of them go away, and I think we really have something that can scale much faster. So I'm bullish on where that's going. Last wallet observation I want to make in this Wallets in Wonderland is, what does it mean for a bank, like a Citi, who's a large consumer bank and issuer around the world, to be in this wallet arena, right? And I often hear people talk about mobile commerce as it's about the consumer and the merchant, and everything else kind of in between is just friction. And my sense is this underplays what we hear from consumers about the relationship between a consumer and his or her bank, right? A bank, when you talk to consumers, is often seen as the entity for safeguarding the payments process, making someone whole if there's a problem, obviously providing credit and liquidity, facilitating one's financial life. So if I digest all that, what I think comes out is it's really valuable to consumers that banks have a prominent, and I'll call it an interactive role in these mobile wallet application paradigms, right? Not just one of many logos at the bottom of a card carousel that you swipe back and forth, but bringing service, content, things that our brands do and mean appropriately into the core wallet. So our view is that the paradigms for these wallets are being set today. So this is the time to kind of get the model right and think about where all the parties add the most value for a consumer. Final chapter. I call this going horizontal and vertical, and I'm using these words very specially here because in the digital space, it's around the context of collaboration and partnership. So horizontal means a lot of things, but in our case, for a large company, it means working to tap expertise and ideas across a large global organization, right? At Citi, we did something a few years ago. We formed a group called Enterprise Payments. We brought together consumer payments people, institutional payments people. We brought in people from the outside, software engineers, marketing people, quants, and we kind of think that this unit is unique in financial services. We're kind of a scrappy little startup sandbox, but we're launching the platforms I talked about earlier, and I think it's because this horizontal connectivity really pushed the envelope on our thinking. Vertical is the other piece I want to talk about, and that's really knowing what we do well and don't do well, right? It's knowing our strengths, what we bring to the party, and knowing that the rest of us are smarter than any one of us. So we know we do secure networks, we know we could process transactions, we know we have global scale, but we know all of you bring technology and marketing and information analytics and all kinds of other expertise that's not in our DNA as a bank. And hence, part of vertical, part of why Citi is here and has meetings lined up with so many players is we believe success will be playing up and down the ecosystem, creative partnering, really asking hard questions and finding interesting combinations. The two things right now that I think are most critical on another aspect of verticals, right? We have the partnering, but there's two other things we got to deal with. One is standards and common approaches that drive scale, right? We kind of got to do that together. Tokenization is absolutely at the top of the list, as I mentioned earlier. If we solve tokenization, many new worlds open up. I think there's also some opportunity for standards around authentication and identity, but let's get the tokenization right first. The other vertical area, it jumped out at me because I sat through a conference a few weeks ago by the U.S. Consumer Financial Protection Bureau, the CFPB. It's coming together on emerging regulatory policy, right? What was clear as I sat in this conference was that as mobile payments hit mainstream critical mass, regulatory concerns are emerging, right? I heard at this conference talks about security, privacy, customer choice, opt-in processes, all the kind of things that we all know well. But what was interesting about this is the CFPB, their regulatory remit is with financial institutions, but the bulk of attendees at this conference were people in other parts of the mobile commerce ecosystem. And what I think's going on is CFPB's listening, they're forming views, and what's going to happen is, historically the payments regulatory stuff was for the bankers. I think it's clear that this is now a cross-industry, row together. It's the only way we're going to solve this. This is too complex and too interconnected for a traditional, okay, the banks will be the regulated entities here. So I think that's what some of these discussions are going. All right, last chapter, work in progress. Not a full ending, but a hopeful ending. I call it show me the money. I am fortunate. I work for a company that has had the capacity and the willingness to put some significant digital investments on the balance sheet, right? Large, global, scalable platforms. They don't come cheap, but that's how we do it because we want it to work in a number of countries. And I get asked every month what that balance sheet looks like, so I know what's on it. Everyone recognizes there's no instant gratification here. Everyone recognizes this is not a quarter-by-quarter thing. But the question is, if not instant gratification, what about ultimate gratification? And when is the ROI for us from these investments gonna pay off? And I guess I'd make the following two observations. They're not answers, they're still observations. First one is, I think for some period of, I'll call it incubation time, mobile payments will have a large component of redistributing an existing P&L pie, right? Look at it as a bank. It costs money to get our payment instruments into a mobile wallet, right? That money's paid to others in the ecosystem. Could be phone carriers, technology companies, security companies. This is on top of our existing costs, right? We're still printing and mailing plastic, covering fraud, doing anti-money laundering. So day one, we get worse banking economics, right? Interchange isn't exactly going higher, and we have more expense. So the bet here is this all is going to ultimately drive growth, more spending, acquiring new customers, forming win-win partnerships with merchants tied to what mobile can bring. Now, that bet needs to be proven, right? But that's how this is going to pay off, right? It's not going to be about spreading the same peanut butter on more slices of bread. The second piece here will be the critical role of innovation in expanding the pie of new revenues, new business models, right? That's how we're going to grow the economics that are available with value-producing innovation. And that comes back to real problems being solved, real new value at real scale, some of the simplification I discussed earlier. So, end of story, my 3 chapters, and my work in progress ending. Well, actually, I lied. There was the inside back cover. It's a poem I want to share with you. It's not one that I wrote, thankfully, but one of our video guys was strolling around Manhattan and talking with people about digital payments and came across this gentleman, Alan Andre. We told him about Money 2020. He got it instantly and was generous enough to pen and read these words for us.
Surfing, shopping, and remembering. Roving under radar, we are nonetheless flipping across networks, making banks of servers whir and heat up, making fiber optics pulse. We are triggering advertisements, applications, executing scripts. Our data is dancing as our feet forget where they're stepping and our fingers focus on their typing, or rather our thumbs. No matter what we see or do or buy, we speak in bites, forgetting our mouths and forgetting that language must be shared if it's to mean a thing.
Right, so I have no clue what that all meant, but look, from the view of this East Coast banker in a suit, I think I'm really bullish on where this is all going, on the potential for true innovation, meaningful standards, ecosystem collaboration, and if you toss in some NFC and maybe some more hipster poetry, I think we will all create the value that grows the pie for all of us. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Gary.